Do you want to do intro this week or am I?
Welcome, everybody. This bastard took the last two intros, so it's about time I had time to introduce our podcast, shall I say. No, I'm kidding. So welcome back to the Bodybuilding Prospect with George and myself, Alex. This is going to be a nice breezing episode, not a bit informative as well, talking about current situation that I'm going through with being away for work, living out of a hotel for the next 5 weeks, dealing with food training, supplementation, how can you work around different things, and maybe give some help to people who are going to go through the experience at some point. What else are we going to cover?
We call it the macro tracking special.
Yeah, we can do.
A little wrap up of recent events as per usual. Went down to Pure Elite. Was it the Pure Elite Worlds? No, just
their World show.
Yeah, it was the Pure Elite Worlds at the weekend in Margate. Just give some feedback and a little insight into that, what we thought, and we may as well talk about federations and stuff while we're on the topic and that. But yeah,
you're right. So, should we start with the weekend?
Might as well.
So, we travelled down to Margate to watch the Pure Elite Worlds, which is a show that I fortunately enough won last year. So it was really good to bump into a lot of the guys I've met over the years I've competed with, good friends, coaches, and obviously people running the show. It was nice to actually be at a show that I've competed at that I'm not competing there on the day, so you can take in a little bit more of the atmosphere, and actually just be on a level with people. People obviously ask you the same question, when are you going to compete next and that sort of stuff, but it's like, mate, I'm not talking about it today. Like, today's not about me, it's about being there, watching the show, seeing and fortunately enough to see a friend of mine who won his overall for the second time in a row this year, and he looked the best ever. You could see that the switch was flicked of being overall champion last year and actually having a title to retain. You could see that was put in, because the moment he walked out, you knew the level was up. I was told a client of mine came to me to watch the show, so he came with me to watch the show, and I said, you'll see a clear difference between the guys that give it and know they're ready for it, and the guys maybe that are new aren't quite ready. It's not about peaking or anything like that. This isn't the sort of standard we're talking about here. It's, being ready to compete. Is the physique right for the category? Because you will see in fitness federations, which we'll go on to, is a lot of people will jump in every single category, which there was an individual there who we saw in about 8 categories and wasn't happy when he didn't place at all. But we'll go on to that and I'll happily talk about that, and that needs to be spoken about in some things, because one physique is not right for all categories. Yeah, go on, jump in.
So something that was quite nice to actually see was you just darting about. Actually, I don't know, there's not me saying you're the man at all or not going down that route, but it was nice to see you confidently, walking about in an environment and having some essence of like respect from people. It was nice to see people actually make an effort with you. Yeah,
I mean, it's actually nice that you've noticed that, because where the venue it was at, I did my first show there in 2018. It was that venue. There's a lot of, I did my second show there as well the year after. There's a lot of memories in that place. When I got into competing, and the individuals who I was welcomed by those first years, who also were there on the day, they always will stand out more than me the most. Gina, that competed before, maybe not necessarily didn't belong, but you could tell I was new to it. I've got is my connection going a little bit?
It keeps glitching in and out.
Yeah, it says it's unstable. Let me see. I may have to connect to the internet at some point. I'm just hotspotting in a minute. But it's just, you when you've competed with people over the last few years, you build friendships, relationships. These people live all around the country. There's only going to be 1 or 2 moments throughout the year you're going to see them, and that will be at events like this. And it's nice to catch up. But like you said, it's cool to feel almost respected, because I'd earned a title, and it's not the greatest accomplishment in competing, but it means a lot to me because it was a goal I set years ago, and it was nice to achieve a goal. And you're talking to other champions as well. Like, they asked me to sign a card that was going to be all by the pro champions, which is not nice little touches. It was nice.
It's nice being a part of it. It's nice being a part of something, but it's important. I know I was throwing digs at you all day, winding you up, taking a piss a bit, but that's just what I do. But no, it really was. It's when I finally sat down and I had to keep reminding myself, this isn't a bodybuilding federation. This is a fitness federation. Specifically, it's different. It's a separate entity altogether. And when you remember that, you can see the good, instead of comparing it to what I'm used to watching and seeing, you can actually start to see the highlights and where it shines. And there were some very good caliber of athletes on the day. The ones that were winning their classes outside of the typical the favorites and
gotcha,
there's always that, isn't there? But there was a few out that really outstood the rest, that could quite easily cross over, like you're saying about your friend who took the overall. He could quite easily go toe to toe with people on a bodybuilding stage or in a bodybuilding fed. Quite easily.
I think my thought process is with competing is, say someone might think that compete, say for example PCA or Two Bros, why do people compete in federations like this? My true belief is you have to compete where the physique fits. My physique 2 years ago and up until last year fits perfectly in certain categories. I thoroughly enjoyed competing as a fitness model, and I thoroughly enjoyed competing as a muscle model. I could still probably compete as a muscle model now. I'll just be a very big one, and there are even bigger muscle models in federations, for example, like WBFF, like a guy called Alex Davies, people might know, is quite well known. And then you've got guys like Williams Fallade who stick to being a fitness model, and become the face of being a fitness model. Tom Coleman, for example, was always a fitness model and a muscle model. You have to go where the physique fits, and at the time it fit then. The next time I compete will be when the physique will fit bodybuilding. That is, I'm going with the timeline, the process. I've followed guys who are now pro bodybuilders, for example, Neil Curry, IFBB Classic Physique Pro, who did get his Olympia qualification this year. He was a fitness model years ago. Joe Ballinger, guys, I know him now as a bodybuilder. He was a fitness model competing with Miami Pro. Corey Fieldhouse, for example, a guy who's now a super heavyweight with Two Bros and competed at the Arnold. Another phenomenal athlete, bodybuilder now, was a fitness model. And I'm just following that same process. And I do say to guys, like a client, for example, there's a show, he's not ready to be a bodybuilder. He's probably not even big enough to be in men's physique yet to be competitive at a real standard of a show. You may want to consider jumping in here. And I could see, once you experience it, obviously like Georgia, when we were talking about some of the athletes and why is this girl in this class, she doesn't really fit the criteria and stuff like that. But it's like, you remember, man, like this is a fitness federation. They're looking for a fitness model. For example, in a fitness model category, the individual has to look like they can be on a fitness cover. Like it's for a cover magazine. Do you want to jump in a bit from what you saw?
Yeah, again, exactly what I was saying. There was a few athletes that they had like was it like a fitness figure or athletic?
Is international model, or
it was the ones that they were like figure, wellness, and bikini, but they had something in front of it.
Diva.
No. They I can't remember what they called it now, but it wasn't in my head. The minute I heard bikini, the minute I heard wellness, the minute I heard figure, my head went straight away to criteria for Two Bros, or even PCA, or and I was looking at the physiques with that mindset, and that's why I kept looking at it going, well, that placing that surely shouldn't be right, because that female over there. But it's me thinking again, that bodybuilder federation mentality, not fitness fed. It was good experience. Again, it's first time I've ever watched one of their shows. I didn't actually get to come see you when you won, which sucked.
No one did. There was no audience in my last show.
So I mean,
a prep during COVID, by the way, people, for those that did it, did suck, because this show got moved that I competed at twice. The venue got changed and there was no audience. It was in a TV studio. It does take away 50% of the wow factor. That was, when you got your family and friends shouting your name. Like I had the year before, I had people from work, family, friends shouting and like they're losing their voices. That's part of competing, as obviously people know that I've had that happen. And like when it happens for you, man, you'll have goosebumps up there and you cannot stop smiling. Like I did not stop smiling the moment I walk out of there, even without people there, but it just makes you want to smile, because it's 18, 22, 26 weeks, 24, however many weeks your prep is, it's all down to that moment. And it is a surreal experience.
Yeah, it was also nice, obviously going and supporting Joe and Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
That was obviously nice. It was, seeing someone who does go and compete at Two Bros, who does compete at PCA, who has done all the different bodybuilding federations, go and absolutely storm, the pure elite worlds, and get a pro card as well. So it's obviously good supporting the friends and people we're there with.
we can go on to, say, for example, let's go into the, say, standard, like we touched on a minute ago. Because the criteria is so different, and fitness federations, the difference between a fitness federation and a bodybuilding federation, say comparing PCA to Pure Elite, the door is open to so many more styles of people. For example, they have something called a transformation category. This is where, shout out Hags, by the way, for winning. You go from being, that I've seen 25 stone people to being shredded. And of course, yeah, they have the scars from their journey, like maybe a bit of loose skin or something like that. But to go from that sort of journey, like a guy called Oliver Hewitt that I competed with in 2019, he won it that year. Went from being, you know, an overweight dad who was fed up with it, decided to become a bodybuilder, you know, and entered the transformation category. And you see the big picture of the wall of them behind them, or what they used to look like. And then obviously they come walking up, you know, fake tanned up, ripped, looking sick. And that is what I love about fitness fairs. It does open the door to more styles of people. And
I did like that.
yeah, I think a lot of people like that.
A lot of respect for that class.
Yeah, because that takes balls, man. I've seen guys who walked out that aren't really gym guys. They're just guys who have lost a crazy amount of weight. For example, Jack Towers. I've seen a guy like him, like who lose like 18 stone. I mean that 18 sort of stone weight to come out on stage and just show the work, you know, and it will inspire someone, and it has inspired people. Even after that show, a guy was asking about, what was the transformation category? Like, I'm considering entering it next year to show my journey. And people were on there like posting pictures of Hags. I even put the picture of Hags on there, tagged Tom Foreman in it, said, he's probably got better pictures to show. And get involved. Anyone can. They have categories from Beachbody, which would be the typical, people are like, what is Beachbody? Essentially, if you're a guy with less muscle than most, you look good in a pair of swim trunks, get a tan on, mate, you're half good looking dude or lady, get yourself, you know, up on stage, get amongst it. And then you have their international model class, which is 2-round class, similar to WBFF, which is where you'll wear a lingerie round. Men will wear like boxers or briefs, and the ladies who do go really, I'm not going to say OTT, but they do go ham on this class. If you want to spend money in the fitness federation, you probably do international model, because the outfits are crazy. Like, they come out with feathers and wings. You saw them, right? Like, I'm sure you thought,
it was too much, man. Like, again, it was the stuff like that I was just a bit like, what have I come to fucking watch? But by the end of the day, it kind of saved itself a bit. But yeah, when they come up with the big angel wing feathers and that, half their physiques were covered up. I was just trying to, I did say to Joe a couple of times, how are they judging this? Is it who spent the most money on the outfit, or?
Yeah, of course. The argument is for that is the criteria is to look like an international.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Be on a cover, to be who's going to be marketable for the brand.
Yeah.
For example, Amelia Tank, who won it, I think the year or two before, you know, she was the winner. She has the look that can be on like a cover, or even from like fashion. That's their angle with it. And could maybe go and get a magazine deal or something. Like, who knows?
Look, don't get me wrong, I wasn't moaning about the lingerie fucking rounds.
Of course, I mean, there's one thing that is a little bit, like, even when my mum come to watch the first year, and she saw, thinking like, this is something she's pulled out of her drawer that she wears for her husband. It's like, yeah, probably. It's the same sort of bit. And then the evening wear is either going to be somewhere from a nice dress to the most.
I'm not being funny. Some of it, I've seen more appropriate things on the girls in the windows of the red light district.
Yes.
I'll be deadly serious when I say that as well.
Yeah, there is obviously for men, they don't come out wearing much more. It's just a pair of boxers, you know, standard. There's no real, the posing with it as well is neutral. There's no flexing. You'll get marked down if you flex in an international model category.
Know that.
Same as, so yeah, to touch on to fitness model and actually muscle model, you are not supposed to clench your fists within the posing. It's open hand. Like, you see what guys do that, then I do it as well.
Kind of similar to like.
Yeah, it's almost like gun fingers, but it's not. Hand. I just went with what the pro guys used to do.
They do it in PCA men's physique posing.
They do a rear double bicep, don't they? Which is strange.
They have to have open hands.
Yeah. To me, a men's physique athlete, just touching on, shouldn't do a rear double bicep. That's just me. But hey, that's the way. For every federation is different. Hence why you have to see what you want to do. You know, some people, like for example, Pure Elite hate bikini posing. You know, the what's this pose called? The front shot with a hand on the hip and one arm out.
The teapot.
Yeah,
I
they
call it a
call it.
teapot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Pure Elite call it, and they hate it. They cannot stand the teapot pose. And you can see, I'm sure you did, PCA girls. Oh, is my connection still there?
Just about, man. Just about.
Yeah, you got to tell me when I'm flagging, otherwise it might keep cutting out. I may have to go onto the internet. But you could see PCA girls doing their routines from PCA the other week,
Yeah.
coming out and doing it. Because you pointed out, you were like, oh, that's a PCA routine.
Yeah.
You could point out straight away, and it's like, I was like, they're not going to like it. They're
They
not going
didn't.
to like it.
They didn't like
Yeah,
it, even though I was looking at it going, she's got the best physique on stage,
yeah,
best posing.
that's a
Obviously,
bikini athlete. Yeah, but it is not for the criteria of the
yeah,
federation.
Exactly. I think that's the important thing to remember as well.
Is this going to cut off if I try to go onto internet here?
You'll probably go blank for a minute, but it's all good.
Give me a second. You may have to breathe for a second.
It's all right. But yeah, so I wasn't exactly. This was my first experience going to Pure Elite. I've been to NFM UK. They're kind of similar to a fitness federation, but to a larger degree. The GBO federation, they offer quite a lot more on a reward and award standpoint. Trips to America with the team and go out there with the NFM UK and GBO team to compete in America. So you get a much higher caliber of athlete, and their bodybuilding classes, so female and male, they are judged similar criteria to proper bodybuilding, and then they have the diva classes and stuff like that are again fitness federation classes, but they are judged accordingly along that route. So I feel like that's kind of like the middle ground for them both. I feel like they're kind of touching on that in between point. From what I could see anyway, I may be totally wrong saying that, but from an observational perspective, that's what it come across like. I know Zoe, my partner, we will be prepping her for an NFM UK show at some point during the year. And again, it's because they offer a lot more, with bodybuilding federations, you're either bikini, wellness, figure, or physique, classic, bodybuilding. You're going to be in, whatever class you're in. Whereas the fitness federations, they offer that ability to, kind of float between, and pick and choose. So I was just comparing now that I was back, I was just comparing, looking at NFM UK and Pure Elite, and how the standard of the bodybuilding side of NFM UK standard, they still had, fitness federation classes, diva, stuff like that. But the level of standard of athlete we saw, because of the prizes and awards that they could get, was a lot higher.
Yeah, I mean, where I can chime in there is with, for example, Pure Elite 2 years ago, maybe COVID got in the way a little bit, but we had 250 athletes, I think, 2019. And that's a lot of people to get on stage compared to, say, the other day where there was, I think it was 130, I think, compared. And that obviously will go down to popularity of the show. And then again, for example, Pure Elite alone, obviously I know where I competed with them. The ratio from female to male competitor is about 4-1, easy. Yeah. Women love Pure Elite. I'm not saying it's bad for males because I've done it for years. Would I say the standard dropped? Maybe not so, but maybe the amount of popularity it has. For example, going to NFM UK, that I'm even considering going to compete with at some point, because the prize options and the way it was run, we went obviously watched it for the full day. The prize options to fly to America and things like that, no one else is offering that. And I remember when they first started bringing this out, and NFM UK was another small sort of federation, and it's just growing, it's growing. And you can see the standard with it. I saw athletes, for example, Neil Cranwell, a guy I follow, Masters competitor, who's also a NABA Pro or WABA Pro, one of the two, competing with them. So when you see guys like that there, like one day he was there, you know why? Because there are some serious prizes to be offered, and the standard will only go up year on year.
But also GBO in America is a bodybuilding federation. They're going out there to compete on a bodybuilding stage, so naturally they're going to get bodybuilders resonate and gravitate towards it. You compare the standard of the bikini classes at NFM UK, and then you compare the classes that they call bikini at Pure Elite, and it will just in general compare all of the female categories from both. I think the difference between the two is the standard. You've got a lot softer and a lot less muscled and a lot less experienced people going to Pure Elite. It's almost like a gateway into a stepping stone, if you would, into competing.
Yeah, and that's not by no means
A bad thing at all.
essentially shitting on an organization.
Nope.
It's the pathway of competing.
Yeah.
If your physique is ready to jump in a higher end federation, then go for my advice. PCA 2 bros. They're the two highest standard in my eyes for the country. Of course, if you're looking to go to become an IFBB pro and your physique is going to be ready for that sort of standard, or you just like the federation anyway, obviously go that way. But there are so many different ways to go about it. It's just nice for us to be able to talk about where you can go as an avenue. I've had people try and shit on me for me saying about the whole pro muscle model thing, because people don't understand that. People think that we're pushing it as, he thinks he's pro this, that, and the other. But no. There's a difference in the federations and how it's said. There is by no means a comparability of IFBB pro and a fitness pro. There just isn't. There's just different standards to the way it is.
You can't even compare. I'm sorry. I've probably some PCA pros.
Yeah, go on. Jump in.
People that are aiming for that goal in life. I mean, I say this to Zoe as well. I say this to her face every day. She would like to become a PCA pro, and that's because she loves the federation. It's because she likes what they do for the athletes and the level of commitment and what they put out in their shows. But it ain't an IFBB pro card. You're not a professional bodybuilder. I'm sorry. In the eyes of the world, that's still not professional bodybuilding. That's professional in a federation. It's a separate thing.
Then if you
in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I can see exactly what you mean. If there's obviously a standard, you're going to go by top to bottom where the standard goes for within bodybuilding and fitness. You just got to see what the federation have on offer as well. For example, I know PCA are quite big all around the world. I know they're big in Korea as well. Yeah. As an example, they have worldwide shows. You can represent PCA's UK team to compete with them all over the world.
Yeah.
Federations are branching out, obviously, like NFM UK partnering with GBO. And now the popularity is going to grow because then these guys can now go from being essentially a small island in the middle of nowhere in the West, the UK, and go and compete in America with different standard of athletes.
But like I said, each federation's got their own little top of the pack, their own little miniature, kind of Olympia style kind of vibe to it. This is the top dog. This is the people that are the best in our federation, and they'll all compete here. But again, there's still nothing on, bodybuilding is Olympia. That's the goal of bodybuilding.
IFBB will always be
top dog because of that reason. Until a federation like PCA or someone else buys the contract to give out IFBB pro cards, which they probably never will because they've created a very good, profitable PCA pro league thing. It won't change.
Yeah, for example, the way you can maybe compare some things is comparing getting a card with a certain federation. I know getting an IFBB pro card as a bodybuilder is extremely difficult, and one that some of the greatest bodybuilders that I know and follow and spoken to, they haven't even achieved. Then you'll go to, say, the level down from that, maybe PCA will be there. PCA, again, don't give out many PCA pro cards because they will cherish it for what it is. Then again, the argument be, but in America, they give out more classic physique pro cards and they know what to do with.
They do.
But you got to deal with the popularity. When you've got 30 average in a class, there are athletes who suit it perfectly and will be a classic. If you look at how many classic physique pros there's going to be maybe even 1,000. Who knows? And then you're going to go down the lines of underneath those, which would be fitness federations. I'll even say WBFF may be under that in that sort of category. But obviously, if you've never really seen WBFF, it's still getting hard. Obviously, you're not comparing bodybuilding and fitness federations. It's hard to become a WBFF pro. And then again, to even win, you've got the battle. I'm not going to say it too loud, but there is politics behind it, to even win one of these shows and then become part of it. I even was warned to not even compete with them because I wasn't going to win. Not because of my physique, but because I wasn't
you're not coached by a certain coach that represents the federation, or you're not in the club. I think that was, again, I keep coming back to NFM UK and the GBO shows. I think that, again, was another reason why I liked it so much, because they are still, technically of the fitness, they're like a hybrid fitness bodybuilding federation. They are still under the fitness banner. There wasn't the same politics that you see at Pure Elite or WBF, which is clearly present. You was calling winners before they'd even gone on stage. Do you know what I mean? It has to be there is that to consider. when you're thinking about these different federations. But the same thing happens at Subros, man. You know,
Yeah,
we've seen it happen.
We've seen it, and it's not. End of the day, it is a subjective sport, and even then, someone will chime in and be like, "But it's not even a sport." It is in its own unique way. Just to leave it as that.
This is a lifestyle.
It's a beauty pageant. It's a muscle pageant. Whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, we fucking do it. So shut up, all right? If you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But yeah, like what else can we go on to here? It's a nice little vibe here talking about. Whoa, I just swapped. It's all right. I nearly messed up my screen.
It's all right, guys. Alex is new to having a MacBook, so he's still fiddling around and playing with things.
Yeah, I'm like Wreck-It Ralph over here with hammer hands, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I think internet going and like looking at international shows as well. I'm very interested to see how I've got a couple of the boys that are at physiques that I see, you know, every day, and they're I believe Josh is still prepped by JP. Sheridan's prepped by the guy that owns the gym. They're going to do their first international show, and I'm very keen to watch and see how they fare and how they do in the lineup and see what happen. You know, what sort of caliber they're looking at, because it is a pro qualifier, so I'm sure there's going to be some serious people turn up.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what, you know, how that plans out, because again, it's a goal of mine. I'd love to go abroad somewhere and compete. That would be sick.
Yeah, it will happen. It will happen. It's what I like, and that's obviously going on the road of competing. You know, we're by no means experts here. We are just huge fans of the sport, and we follow it
and giving an opinion based on experience of being at shows and what we can take from seeing different federations. Yeah. This is, again, it's all opinionated, like Al said.
Yeah,
you know,
we're not trying to say that we know everything. But I can honestly say, I know George can as well, massive fan of the sport. Massive. All right. I didn't realize how much I knew about things and athletes over the world, like, until I walked to the Arnolds, and you realize, you think, oh, that's this guy from Instagram. That's this guy from Instagram. Do you know what I mean?
Absolute fangirling everywhere.
I'm a large, lumpy fangirl. That's what I'll be.
There's one thing I'm jealous of you in that picture of Nathan D'Asha, man. That's always not going to sit with me well until I get one.
That is my best picture of 2020. No, sorry, 2021, sorry. 2020. Taking a picture with Nathan D'Asha about 4 minutes after he won the Arnold. Yeah, that will probably go on a wall somewhere at some point.
My goal is to somehow find a way to get him to spot me during a set and film it. Just like, fuck you, Al. I got one better.
A guy I follow, because he was down at Rip Gym down our way the other day, and when I see an athlete, I follow Ike, PCA guy. He trained with Nathan D'Asha, and who can say they trained with an IFBB Pro Arnold winner? Not many can say that. But yeah, touching on to the level up of competing after, say, you go through your pathway of starting with a federation, and then you get to a point where your physique is at a point to stand internationally. The options of going, say, well, we can give an example of a friend of ours. So Charlotte, a friend of ours from the gym, bikini lady, she has turned PCA Pro, 3-time PCA overall winner, 2 Bros British champion as well.
She's got a phenomenal physique.
She has. She went and competed abroad. I think it was Portugal. Yeah, I believe it was Portugal.
And feedback.
Pardon?
You see the feedback she posted on her Insta?
From where? Sorry.
From the show.
What, is this recent or the one before?
I'm not too sure. She posted it. I believe it was today or yesterday. Her delts are too damn big.
Yeah, but that's always been the case with her.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We call her delts Phil Mitchell because they're huge. Yeah, I think she did her first international show beginning of the year, and it's come like, I think, 4th or 5th. For a first time international show, and no one even knows your name as well, because the name will obviously hold you as well, on my true belief with the industry. And seeing how your name will progress and how you bump up the rankings once judges recognize who you are, blah, blah, blah. It's not bad going at all to see you come, I think it's 4th or 5th. It's annoying me that I haven't got it 100% right. In an international show, when you've got ladies from all around the world going to this show to compete in a pro qualifier, you know, to become an IFBB pro, to come in a higher place, in the top placing, is a serious achievement. You know, with her, she aims for the damn stars and sets her standard to win. So she was always down by it. And I had a nice talk with her afterwards. They're back in the gym about, you know, how did it go? And she was a bit heartbroken. I was like, you need to give yourself credit. You know, you're in your first year and a half of competing, and you're already internationally knocking on the door. You know, so hopefully I was saying that once this prep eases off, you'll be able to take a little step back and be like, look what you
appreciate what you've done. It's fucking impressive.
They call her Madam 3 Swords now because she's got 3 overall swords. It was Madam 2 Swords. Now it was Madam 3 Swords after the 3rd in a row. So
that's mad. That is mad.
Yeah, big love to Charlotte. Always will.
Yeah, that is literally like in an amateur level, that is the top of the top.
Yeah,
You're going to get people turn up that are phenomenal and have tried to build a pro worthy physique, so that they're expecting themselves to be worthy of that pro card. So you're going to have the best of the amateurs.
and that is to know, for example, Rob Cannon, for example, he's a PT at Crayford, not just PT online coach as well, and phenomenal athlete. Well, now IFBB pro. He come third at the Arnold, I think it was, as an amateur, 2018. I think it was Arnold amateur, third place. And then, what was it, 2-3 years later, after being at that sort of level, then gets rewarded with his IFBB pro card in Alicante, I think it was. And you see this, the journey these guys and ladies go on over like a decade of bodybuilding. That's not just gym training, that's a bodybuilding of competing.
Yeah.
Over 10 years. And you can see the reflection. A guy that you thought was hard as nails, crying, of joy. To see, because that is going from the bottom of being a no one to being a someone, like in the industry. But then again, he might even say, now I'm a no one again. The bottom of the pro league, it's the new step up, because now he's going to be competing against, all his favorite pros. And even remember him saying, like, he was looking at Nathan Diash, like, I might even step on stage with him at some point next year. Like, him even saying that was like, he was almost like gobsmacked, I think, by saying it.
It's a mad thing to say, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's talk about you and your situation right now.
Oh,
the macro tracking king.
Macro tracking king. On macro tracking, I spend a lot of my time on Chronometer, trying to work out. Well, then again, it's not actually that hard to work out my meals. My meals are very simple. Being away in a hotel, what have I got to do with food? I've spoken to the kitchen staff. I've spoken to the lady at the desk. Lucky enough, with my work, sorting out an allowance for the evening. It could be abused, but I'm not going to, because my food's very cheap and simple. Having my eggs in the morning, with pretty much eggs on toast for breakfast. Just a lot of eggs with it. Boom, near enough matched up with my meal one. Then lunch, lucky enough, I've got a mini fridge in my room, which I can keep my chicken in. I just buy cooked chicken, so I can't cook in it at the minute. But I've asked the kitchen to cook me some, so I've got that flip-flop in between cooked from the shop. Is it ideal? Is it the best? No, because I can't cook it myself. But it's as close as I'm going to get. Saves me going to get a meal deal. I've got that, and I've got umpteen packs of jasmine rice in my bag here, ready to go. Lucky enough, it's 250 grams a pop. One of them in, boom, take that as chicken and rice, done. Roughly about 180 grams per meal. Then I'll take another 100 grams of chicken, 150 grams of chicken, and take 2 bagels with me to the course. Have that chicken and bagel there, boom, done. Come back here, and then I've got so many fiber bars and cereal bars to macro track what will be my post-workout, which is actually 130 grams of carbs. And if you can imagine 130 grams of carbs at about, I think it's 600, 700, maybe even 800 calories is what we look at, of carbohydrates post-workout. That's a lot of cereal.
It's a lot to play with.
It's a lot of food to play. That's when, fortunately enough, when you are in a position that I am at the minute of eating X amount of food, you have the option to work things out. It is when, say, if I was in a deficit, the challenge would definitely be there to make sure you're not overreaching targets or overreaching calorie count, things like that, because of obviously the goal of being a deficit. With a surplus here, I can choose pretty any food I want. I keep it the same once I made my decision. Obviously, to go forward and make sure I'm having the right foods. And then last meal, I'll have it fresh food from downstairs with dinner provided by work, which will either be chicken breast, burger in a brioche bun with 2 jacket potatoes, a little bit of salad, a little bit of light mayo, and that's it. And I can, as long as I've got that sorted, I know my food's settled. No stress.
What are you doing for the macros?
The macros, you can keep that. I'm just having my fruits.
So no vegetables. Yeah, like you said, it's not optimal because you can't cook it yourself. I guess you just got to make do for now. But something perfect practice for this situation, when you're in a growth phase, when you're in your off season, when you're in a push up, when food is high, I made a big point for my off season here to kind of, macro tracking is a skill, right? You have to learn, you have to practice it and apply it day in, day out, and you will get things wrong here or there. And over time, you will be able to, master it in a way that you can pretty much get your macros bang on and your micros as well. It's important to note, if you're macro tracking, you still need to worry about the micronutrients you're eating, obviously, unless you're in our situation where you physically can't cook veg. It may be worth going to supermarkets and buying stuff that's fresh to eat, stuff that you can eat. but yeah, I seriously encourage it, especially with my clients, to in phases like the off season where you can have some leniency and you can have calories at a point where they're high enough to go out for meals during the week, so long as you can track it, so long as it is trackable. Hell, there's been times where I've taken my scales with me to restaurants, so that I can weigh the steak I'm having, so that I know where it fits in my day. And I save one meal for the evening afterwards, so that if the steak and what I had was more than expected, I can then manipulate the calories and macros of the last meal before bed to suit. And I think it's something that people really do need to practice. If you're someone that doesn't like a structured meal plan, sadly, in a fat loss phase, it's something that I swear and live by. You need consistency. You need the consistency in the digestion, and that routine to make the phase as effective and as efficient as possible. But it is something that you should definitely actively practice, even if you don't need to. I think it's something that we should all, strive to practice as coaches as well. Because if you have lifestyle clients that are macro tracking in their daily setup, because obviously it applies to their lives and how they are, it's something that we need to understand ourselves. It's something that we need to be able to do. It's a skill that we need to have mastered so that we can teach and have other people do it correctly and appropriately. And if you've never done it, how can you tell someone to?
Do you find, it's not a good bit back and forth here, teaching clients how to macro track? Well, just go on for me. I'll feather it in with someone who hasn't done it before, who hasn't had a meal plan before, because I've moved on to a mindset of I'm not a fan of fixed food plans anymore. I made the decision a little while ago, but I use them as a base, especially. So if you're an athlete, that's a different category. You have no choice, mate. If you're on a calorie deficit from a prep, then you will have to stick to where we're at within reason, because of what we have in mind and our focus. For example, in a lifestyle plan, if yours, I like to stay within a certain boundary, but I don't like to overcomplicate things by trying to say to someone, here you go, man, you've got 300 calories and you've got 80 grams of carbs to play with, 8 grams of fat and a few grams of protein for your carb source. Go bananas. It's going to go straight over their head. I think we mentioned this before. It's just going to go straight over, not going to understand it. But once we set a base, get them into get the clogs going of understanding food, why I'm having this food, what options I have, and then go on to what are the alternatives. I wait until those sort of conversations start happening, and then I can feather it in. Okay, let's look at your post-workout meal. For example, mine, 130 grams of carbs. Maybe it's not the best example, and then again, that's small compared to others. About 800 calories, 35 grams of protein, 40 grams of protein, and I think about 6 grams of fat, I think it is. The variety I have to play with there is a lot. That is a lot of cereal. Can it maybe even get some Pop-Tarts in there? I know you were a fan of Pop-Tarts in your big growing phase. Within reason, thinking of the fat content, I know you're going to say with the fats. I know you've become more conscious of fats these days.
It made it. I never ever had high fats during my off-season push-up. It stayed at 40 grams pretty much the entire way through. Joe literally just force-fed me carbs. Well, not force-fed, everything was still going in, but you get the idea. That was the only real macro we just pushed. And there was any trace fats and trace protein, that was all that went up. So if I had Pop-Tarts as my post-workout, which was so much more convenient, it meant that I had to adjust the fats elsewhere in the day so that I didn't fucking overshoot. So it's just, this is the things you need to be aware of. It's okay matching calories to calories, but macros are just as important, especially when you're serious about your goal. But like you said about how do you structure it into people's diets from the beginning, I simply don't until they've shown a level of commitment to the plan for it to be efficable, unless they come to me and say, look, I can macro track. I do macro track. I've done it for X amount of time. It's how I like to work. I've got a good understanding of it, and they can genuinely show me that they have a good understanding and concept of it, then that's fine. I'm all good. But normally, once they've shown the commitment and I can see the consistency that they are serious about, their goals and that they want to achieve what they want to achieve, it might be, right, hell, like on a Wednesday, let's take that last meal out and I'm going to tell you what you've got to play with, protein, carbs and fats wise, and you can make that last meal up. Tell me what it was. Sweet. Start to learn it like that, and then it would be right. Well, if you need to change any other meal, now that you've got a concept of it, let's try it. Show me, tell me what you're doing. Send me a picture of it on MyFitnessPal, screenshot it on Chronometer or MyFitnessPal, and I'll tell you whether it's, good enough. And with lifestyle guys, I always leave like a 10% leniency on their macros. I'm not that anal with them. I understand that, people with kids and family lives and stuff, they can't always be 1000%. So long as the macros are, within 90% of my lifestyle guys, and they understand that 90% is going to get 90% of the results, then I'm all good.
See, I had a client join recently. She'd lost like 3 stone on her own over the last year.
Yeah.
She committed. She put herself in a deficit. It's pretty severe. I'm talking 1,200 calories she was putting herself on. I don't agree with this by any means. It's what she did, following advice, and she lost. I think it was 3 stone. I think it was 3. It's a loss of weight.
Did she say her hormones were fucked?
No, she hasn't mentioned anything like that. So this month we will go into, which is great that we can go back and forth on, is discussing, first off, being in that sort of a severe deficit for a year. And she thought it was okay. She felt fine from it, things like that. I'm thinking,
Jesus,
that's very steep. But if you've got the sort of mindset that can set that for yourself and crack on with it, she was calorie counting, not necessarily macro tracking, but the way she was talking about the food she had, her macros seemed to line up quite well. But the first thing I wanted to do straight away was, because this was, I will add, there was no gym training in this time. She didn't go to the gym at all.
So her food was quite low, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so it was low, obviously, for the cause, going on, I think it was 5K walks at lunchtime breaks at work, which is great. Not a bad routine, but it's not a lot of food at all. It's not something I would go down to. But first thing to implement is gym training and maybe even some cardiovascular. Actually, I kept that the same with the walks on her lunch. Why? Because that means she could eat more straight off the bat. I wanted to see what would happen when I bumped all macro tracked, all calorie counted, 2,000 calories. I wanted to see what would happen to her at 2,000 calories. We are still continually dropping fat here. We've implemented gym-based training, nice and easy. This is someone who's never entered the gym before, so the process is going to be very steady. The workouts are so simple. I'm talking 2 working sets, 2 warm-ups.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, these working sets aren't even probably going to be our style of working sets.
No, of course not.
Just getting the physique moving, getting into it, and getting a routine. Was we winning every week? No, we wasn't, because we're still we're trying to get a bit of tread going, get a bit of balance. But overall, to be trusted to do, I put her on a calorie counted plan, macro tracking, and get her actually thinking more so of the macronutrients as well as the calories, because she was trusted to have that balance. I couldn't do it to everyone. Why? Because that plan, like I've seen with friends as well, they're given a calorie capped plan, macro plan, and they don't even follow it.
Yeah.
It's only 20 calories. It's only 20 grams of carbs. It's only 100 calories. Unfortunately, man, that's 100 calories that you're further away from your deficit.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Throwing a binge on a Friday night, mate, you can say see you later to your fucking progress. Simple as.
It's that easy. It is that easy. But yeah, it's I think you've got Joe's call in a minute.
I've got a few minutes. We've got at least another 3-4 minutes.
Oh, I'm here keep track of the time.
What do you want to wrap it up with? So obviously, to wrap up, I know we breezed about a lot of things here, from competing, different federations, blah, blah, blah. We will go into more things deeper as we go on, especially when it comes to talking about getting coaches on that have athletes in these federations. They can obviously give their take as well, because this is only our opinion. There is going to be many others to go into this.
Well, I mean, it'll be a fun one to breeze it later on, because obviously I've got Zoe doing FitX, PCA, NFM UK. I've got to try and nail the look for all of them 3. That's going to be fun. Hopefully secure another finals place at the end of the year, like she did last year. I've got my new men's physique guy, Seth. He's doing PCA as well this year. After 2 bros, he did the naturals at the weekend with his previous coach. He can't.
The guy you've just taken on.
Yeah. He done natural, the 10x naturals. He come 10th in the men's physique lineup.
Wow. Toby from our gym, from LRF Ashford, won the overall in the natural.
Yeah. I see. I was watching it. I was seeing Seth's stage shots and pictures and stuff in the lineups and that on his story, and I was like, yeah, that's the LRF guy.
Yeah, it's Toby. Yeah.
Mad, absolutely mad. But yeah, he there was a few opinions thrown about that natural show. To be fair,
I haven't even seen the lineup.
Naturals in inverted comma and stuff.
Oh wow!
Oh mate, they've been thrown about. It's already happened, man.
I
And,
know. I know Toby's natural.
yeah. Trust me, I have quite a lot of faith in that. Most of them are.
Yeah.
You know, there is ways to get shredded in a naturals competition. You know, Yihimbine's not a banned substance anymore. Like, there's things you can use to get in serious condition. I mean, to be honest, mate, you look at some of the actual like UK DFBA, the actual drug, like the bodybuilding drug-free side of things, they get fucking peeled. More so because I think because of the stress and that they're not driving up with enhancements as well, they can reach a conditioning that we just can't. You know, there's always that they've got that different grain to the skin that we can't quite get.
Guys that we've seen do it. Don't get me wrong, natural bodybuilding isn't something I'm necessarily interested in at all, I'll be honest.
I've got a natural athlete next year actually, and I want him to do the UK DBFA at the FBA.
Yeah, that's a lot of it, man. I mean, as in following the sport and bodybuilding, especially 165-pound bodybuilder doesn't interest me. That's just me.
Fair enough, man. It's fair enough. Yeah, but you might see the next what's his name? Fucking that's stupid. That's stupid. But who's that? Bob Waterhouse. You might find the next Bob Waterhouse, man.
Yeah.
It's silly. It is silly. They do it. They do exist. There are genetic freaks, man, that can do what we do without what we have.
Keon Pearson, for example, doing it, making it to the Arnold natural.
Yeah, again, genetic freak. I think genetics is a whole hour's podcast we need to dive into.
Yeah, but no, we'll say that for the next one because I've got to wrap this up. I need pee before I go talk to Big Jeffrey, and obviously we can go through what we're up to next time, and obviously get more questions in. Just breeze.
Yeah, we'll actually have time for questions.
Yeah, the apologies, only an hour, but we deal with what we deal with. I'll be in this hotel room again next week. So,
how long are you there for?
5 weeks.
5 weeks.
5 weeks. Yeah.
5 weeks. You've got a macro track 5 weeks.
Yeah, but I'm genetically gifted, so I do what I want. So. Yeah.
Nah, that's because he's put real tests back in now. Fuck you know.
Honestly, man, you saw what I was like at the weekend. It's different. You can tell it's back in. Is what.
Yeah. You got Big Al back. That's nice to see as well. You got the energy back.
Doggone heat, mate, is what it is.
Right then, guys. That is everything from us this week. A bit of a breezing session. But yeah, hopefully there's some takeaways for people considering looking at different federations, some things to think about. You know, maybe fitness federations are where you'd like to start, or maybe it might not be where you want to start, but it may suit you at the beginning, maybe to get some experience before looking to move into bodybuilding federations. And yeah, we'll be back next week. By the sounds of things, we'll be tackling genetics in bodybuilding.
One thing I would like to add is anyone that actually is beginning to listen to this, thank you as well, because if we can help more and more people, then that's us continuing to win. You know, and if you do have a question about anything, competing, getting into it, wanting to get even in shape, even just trying to get into the gym, anything, just please reach out to any of us. My Instagram is Alexander_becoming. That's becoming with BCOMING. It's not spelt the normal way because that's where I decided to do it when I started the brand. And then George is GW Physique only, right? No underscores, no nothing.
Yeah, that's it. GW Physique. Drop us a DM, message us your questions. We can address it on the podcast, or if you'd rather talk in the DMs in person and that. I have a consultation service to tackle through PEDs, enhancements, and more the health side of things. But yeah, guys, we will be back next week.
Brilliant. Speak to you then.
Peace.
Bye-bye.